I didn't know I was going to do film. So what happened is I was not a very brilliant kid academically, so my options were kind of limited because I wanted to do either game development or anything related to using cameras. So my name is Gatehi'S, and what I do is basically videography in general, stuff like shooting music videos, stuff like shooting corporate events, whole scope minus weddings and maybe family events, and also a little bit of photography, portrait stuff mostly. So growing up from when I was a young kid, basically I was surrounded by a lot of gadgets and cameras. My late father used to have video cameras, the old tape ones, and also he owned a SLR Canon T50, and it was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen. Just looking through the viewfinder was like, it blew my mind away. Even just tinkering with the lens, putting it in focus. So having that experience just blew me away, and after that my folks would buy me like these small disposable cameras with the film, and I didn't know how to use it at first, and I'd ruin the film. But eventually I got to actually like taking some good pictures of that. And then also that just developed a knack for technology in general. You know, I used to take apart toys and other just general electronics, which I think used to make them a bit mad, but eventually it paid off. So I used to tinker with those things, and by the time I was getting to high school, or just post-high school, so my A-levels kind of, made friends with people that owned cameras, because at that time now, that's the age of now DSLRs and a few mirrorless, but at that time it was so expensive, so yeah, I was not going to be able to touch one of my own. So I'd ask some friends, hey, can I borrow your camera, just take some photos at maybe a school event, stuff like that. And again, just being mesmerized by what these things can do. I know, just trying out some edits here and there. Of course, by today's standards, those edits look horrible. But yeah, just essentially tinkering from there. And then getting to college, now I was able to get my first mirrorless camera, which was the very, very old, at this point, Canon EOS M. And that basically started my journey into now properly taking photos and videos, because yeah, it was like, now this was like a proper camera, even though by today's standards it's kind of but it still took like raw images, it still took you know, HD video and all that stuff. So that's, I think, another point. I was like starting to get serious with this. And now in college, me and a bunch of friends, we decided, hey, let's start a collective group and start making some short films. So directed my first short film. It was called Ghost Punchers. It was very, very, very strange. And from there, I just loved the craft of just going out and shooting. I would watch so many tutorials on YouTube. If anyone knows a page called Corridor Digital, they'd make a lot of short films, and they'd have BTS about how they're making the films, and I'd watch a ton of their videos, just trying to learn as much as I could, as well as other just tech-based tutorials and stuff. So just building the knowledge from there, practicing and practicing, eventually made, I think, 3 other short films in the duration of my college time. And eventually won 3 awards myself, and collectively as a team we won 6 awards for those films. So at that point, I think I had convinced also my folks, because I don't know if you live in Kenya, doing video work is not a real job. So even at that point, they were like, oh, you're just going to journalism. So I was like, I still wanted to just do video work. So winning those awards and like coming home with those trophies, I was like, wow, you actually know what you're doing, so let's support you. So from there, I got their support. I was able to now get some more professional equipment. I started taking on gigs, and I think from there, it was just like more gigs, more equipment, and then now we're here today. I didn't know I was going to do film. So what happened is I was not a very brilliant kid academically, so my options were kind of limited because I wanted to do either game development or anything related to using cameras. And the closest thing I could find to using cameras, because game development, I was told, nah, like, you're not gonna do that, there's no money there. So the closest thing I could find out to doing camera work was media. And then as I was scoping through media schools in Kenya at the time, I don't even think a lot of the ones that are there now existed, like ADMI. So I was combing through those schools and I found Daystar had an electronic media course, which was basically to say something about like TV and radio, but on the technical side of things. So I was like, okay, I'll give that a try. And so that's how I ended up now going to do communication, electronic media, because it just involved a bit more of what I wanted to do. But yeah, I still focused on learning my own things. I don't know if I have one key moment that changed my approach to videography. I've had several throughout my career and also just growing up. Just several different realizations for how you're supposed to do this thing. From technical to how to approach clients and all that stuff. Like there are several moments where it's just been like, oh, I'm actually not doing this thing correctly, I should change, blah, blah, blah. But I think I'd say the first time I dived into YouTube, what's called YouTube University, to start learning about cameras and videography. I went from like kind of understanding what it's about to now, oh, this is actually like there's a lot of things to actually know about this thing. So I can't pinpoint when exactly that was. I would probably say sometime in my A-levels there, just before university. So yeah, that's I think when I was like, oh, this is a lot of things to learn about filmmaking. Yeah. How I go about getting my clients is there's several different ways. Primarily being portfolio work online, whether it's through website, whether it's through Instagram, even nowadays TikTok also helps. So yeah, this is an online presence is probably the primary route that I go for. The other way is just basically word of mouth. My friends telling people about, oh, I have a friend who does photography, or I have a friend who does video work. That also really spreads, the work around quite a bit. And the third is just going out and meeting people at different events, especially like workshops and things like that, where you meet people who maybe they're trying to learn something, but they're also trying to look for somebody to help them in their work. So yeah, going out and meeting people. And then as you do more work, if you're going to like an event, again, you meet more people there at that event, you share your contacts, and then yeah. So those are, I think, are the three main ways that I get to meet my clients, yeah. So in my line of work, I've not received quite a bit of criticism, at least directly. I do have maybe like one friend who will come and tell me like, oh, I didn't like the tones of this video because I prefer warmer tones in my videos that I watch. And it's mostly just subjective stuff. Mostly I'm self-critical of my older things. That's probably where I get the most criticism from myself. I look back at my old work, even stuff that I've shot like even early as 2 years ago, and I'll be like, it was not that great. The shots are not in focus, or the exposure is wrong, I was doing the wrong things. So I'm very self-critical, and I always learn to kind of create better through that self-criticality. But from other people, very rarely. I think maybe only once on one of my YouTube videos, or people like, oh, you didn't test one or two things on this review, and answer. It's like, that's not really criticism. It's more like, it's a whatever thing. But like, I'm still waiting for people to tell me, what they don't like about my work. But people are usually very supportive, and I appreciate that. So, yeah. Okay, I think so coming to this career, there were several challenges I faced. Primarily being sources of gear, and as well as funding as well for that gear. So for the longest time, I was working with the best thing that I could afford at that time. And also some things were just borrowed from other people as well. But getting gear to shoot the things that I wanted to shoot was very difficult. Back in that time, again, just like there were not many film schools, there were not also a lot of gear shops. Even at that time, Cameras Africa was not even Cameras Africa, it was Universal Gift Center. I don't know if you guys remember that name. So we used to go by Universal Gift Center, we look at the window, we're like, wow, look at all these nice machines that we can't afford. So there was a lot of challenges from that, and even trying to get equipment, internationally was not as easy at that time. Nowadays we're just shipping things like it's nothing, but at that time it was like you have to wait for somebody coming from America to. 1 second. Nowadays at least you can ship in things quite easily, but back in the day it was a bit difficult. So finding equipment that you could rely on was one of the biggest challenges for me, and also just like getting the funding for that, because most of the funding, again, I think for our generation comes from our folks, and to convince them to buy you gear, why? You have to write an essay, you have to write paragraphs, you have to show monetary value, returns and all that thing. So you have to put in a lot of work to be able to convince them that, yeah, there's actually money in this thing. So those are, I think, the most challenges that we started with. And then also not having any formal ground to like start your business. That was also really hard, because at that time there were not a lot of, personal branded videographers at that time. And so everyone was just winging it for how we're going to run the business. Like, how do you manage your finances? How do you manage yourself as a company? Like, it was just figuring it out, like, was literally what we were doing. So nowadays, at least people understand how to go about it, how to set up personal brands, how to make your social media pages, all that things. It's kind of like templates for how it would work. But we did not have any templates. We were just, come as you go. I've never thought about taking any other careers. If I was not doing videography, I don't know what else I'd be doing, to be honest with you. I don't really have any interests in anything else. Maybe IT, but I don't know. The coding part of that was a bit too daunting, but I don't think there's anything else I could possibly be doing. Yeah. So the advice I'd give somebody who wants to start, the career in filmmaking or even photography, or just during the creative space, it's probably something that not a lot of the people on here have talked about. People say, oh, don't focus on the gear too much, or focus on owning your craft. Me, my advice is make sure you do your paperwork, both legal and personal. Like, as in, I don't know if I should tell this story, but so paperwork in terms of when you're working with models, when you're working with corporates, when you're working with other people, there's always certain paperwork involved that is supposed to secure you as an individual, so that you don't end up in trouble. When it comes to working with models, there's something called a talent release form. And this basically means that once they come and they're paying your photos, they're paying your videos, that they've given you actual permission to actually appear in those pieces of content. And the reason why that's so important is you never know when somebody's life changes and they don't want to appear in the content that you've put them in. And that has happened to us before with a friend, not just a random person coming to shoot. So luckily they didn't take it too far. We were just like, just let us keep these things online. And they're like, sour. But don't underplay how important it is to have things in writing. Even if it's your friends and you're just filming your friends, get them to sign talent release forms, because written documents are the only things that are going to secure your work, especially if somebody decides to take you to court. You can't say, oh, but they said I want to be in this video. It's not, you're not going to work with that. So that's my solid piece of advice. And then also just sorting out, invoicing templates that you have, contracts that you'll have with companies. Make sure you do your paperwork properly, because that's the thing that has caught a lot of us who are starting back in the day off guard. Like, I've given an example of my friend, worked with companies that don't pay because, you didn't have an invoice, you just said, oh, this is my budget. And then, you word of mouth it, and then they don't pay you at the end of the day. So make sure 100%, if you're starting this thing, just have one day, figure out all the paperwork that you need, whether it's figuring out your invoicing, your talent release forms, your NDAs, your contracts. Figure out all those things once, and once you have your own templates for everything, then use that for like every piece of work that comes along. Because trust me, somebody can change their lifestyle in 5 years after I've shot a music video of them. They'd say, now I'm changed, now I've gone to do other things, please remove me from this video. And so it really messes a lot of people up. I know a lot of people don't say these stories, but I know a lot of people that have gone through legal issues just because of somebody deciding to remove themselves from a piece of work. So yeah, paperwork, paperwork, paperwork. So the way I stay inspired in my work is, it's very simple. Basically consuming other people's work that gives me motivation and ideas. I'd mentioned before that when I was in college, I started watching a lot of American filmmakers. You know, aside from Corridor Digital, there was Film Riot, and some others I've forgotten their names. But they made content that was so inspiring that it literally made me to want to make films myself, right? So that's something that translates to me. Like when I watch, a movie that has some very epic cinematography, I feel like going out to shoot something that's cinematic and that looks good. So basically, yeah, just essentially consuming content that's just shot really well. Not that it's scrolling on TikTok or something like that. No, just watching something that's been created masterfully, and just it always just sparks something new. I'm like, wow, if I can just combine something that I have, lights that I have, backgrounds that I have, I can create something like this. Or I can use this for a future music video if I put effects like this. It always helps to consume work that's shot really well. Yeah. So working with Cameras Africa and in the way they've equipped my storytelling journey is, I think, the first time I ever interacted with soft lighting was on a gig that somebody had brought a softbox from Cameras Africa. And that's the first time, because this was just after college, and college I was working with bare minimum stuff. So after college, the first time I landed on a set, it was a softbox, and I saw the kind of lighting that was there, because also one of my main things on set is I'm a cinematographer. And I saw the kind of lighting, and I was like, I've never seen something like this before. I was flabbergasted. And so I asked him, where do you get these things from, and are they really expensive? Because I was thinking maybe it's 50, 60,000. Because again, I didn't have knowledge at that time. He tells me, I got it from a shop called Cameras Africa. It's in town. And I went and looked it up online, and I saw they're really affordable, and I was like, hey, let me get this and see if it works the same for me. So I got one, and the moment I turned the light on, I was like, wow, this is a different, I've entered a different stage, because hey, the videos have now elevated. Hey, the videos I was shooting with just bare LED panels, I can't look at them anymore. So it made such a difference of how I interact with light. And how you interact with light in your videos is one of the key differences to make your work go from looking bad to looking really, really good. And after that, I bought 5 other soft boxes from Cameras Africa, and I was like, yeah, time to modify my lights as best as I can. So yeah, other than that, they've helped me also equip this studio. I think, yeah, all the strobe lights that I have, I got from Cameras Africa, as well as all the modifiers, as I've stated. So yeah, they really helped me just make this place actually usable. I think I remember there's a video I have on my YouTube channel where I was just unboxing everything on day 1 of NMK Studio. And it was I was so happy on that day, and you can just see everything just being unboxed. I was tired after everything, because hey, you guys put boxes upon boxes upon boxes upon boxes. Wow, I was so tired, but yeah, it was a fun experience. And it was such it felt like such an accomplishment after a long time of just after the lockdown. We had this place during the lockdown empty, because again, no work at all. And then after all that, just being able to come and purchase those things just made a world of difference. And again, it made the place operational. So yeah. So I think the biggest tip I can give to people out there is, if you want to become a creator for yourself. Don't do this for other people. Don't do it for likes and views or analytics, because once you start becoming tied to those things as a creator, then you stop instilling creativity into your art, because you start saying, oh, what's the algorithm going to like? What are other people going to like? But most people who create and are happy create stuff for themselves. Like, they do it for themselves. And trust me, if you do it for stuff like money, you'll burn out very, very, very fast. Like, almost immediately, you'll just be like, hey, this thing is not worth it, because there's so much work that goes into this craft. There's so much time and dedication that you need, sleepless nights, early mornings, late nights. So yeah, just make sure that if you want to do this thing, you're doing it for yourself. Yeah. Next gear I'm looking to purchase very soon is probably a new lens for my camera. Unfortunately, because things are expensive in this economy, I have a really good camera, but I don't have a set of good lenses. So I've been saving up for a long time, bado. But I'll get there. But that's the next thing I'm definitely going to buy is a new lens, something that actually does professional work, something that's actually weather sealed, because my lenses are not weather sealed. And if you know what dust is, hey, dust is a bad thing. But yeah, definitely a new lens. Yeah, especially the Tamron lenses. Yeah. Cameras Africa, equipping storytellers.